Hi, this is Gloria Taylor Brown with the Gathering of Priestess, and I bring you another priestess. This is Miss Charlotte Cressey.
Yeah.
And we are at the West Coast EcoFeminism Conference 2015, and Charlotte is one of the co-organizers. We're so delighted that she's let us come here and do these interviews, and also to bring the information out into the world, because, you know, it's so important that you hear this. There's a number of interviews we're going to be doing today, so if you're seeing this one as the first one, you might want to look and see whether or not there's some others that you might be interested in. So, Charlotte, tell me a little bit about you and why you got involved in this.
I would love to. Well, I'm passionate about creating a kinder world for all beings. And I got involved in all this very young. I just saw what was wrong with the world, the cruelty and the violence inflicted on animals and women. And from a very young age, I was concerned about poverty, war, all those issues. And ecofeminism provides a philosophy and an action we can take to help people piece back the parts of themselves that have been fragmented and help humanity put the pieces back together and return to wholeness also.
Oh, that's a great thing to say. So, as you've gotten involved with this, I mean, I noticed that you have a gift that you've given here to the conference. You talk about stopping and feeling. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, yeah, well, I got involved in animal liberation as a young person. When I was 3, my parents served me a hamburger, and I said, "Did a cow have to die for me to eat this?" And they were like, "Yes, honey," and I refused it. I said, "I don't want to eat that anymore." I was alarmed that people were eating cows and pigs because they're my friends. So I got involved in animal rights philosophy very young, and I've been involved in the animal rights movement. But what I see, one of the reasons we haven't been successful is because a lot of people aren't open to the information because they're suffering so much themselves and they're stuck in their heads. They're in what I call disembodied logic. So a lot of people use rationalizations and justifications to give themselves a rhyme and reason for why they do what they do. And it comes from the culture and things like animals are here for our use and, you know, all the awful things said about women, all those things, they just get repeated in the mind and kind of keep us separated and out of our bodies. So my mission, of course, is to create a kinder world. So I see one of the missing links is helping people reconnect with their empathy, which means feeling, because we can't just all be up in our minds. We've got to connect with the sensations and the information that's coming to us here now in this beautiful vehicle. You know, I think that so many of us are taught that our bodies are a storehouse of evil and all these awful things. So I want to really help people get in touch with their bodies, clear out the clutter in the mind. I offer some meditations, earth energy meditation, earth energy yoga. These are really ecofeminist practices that help people connect with their inner wisdom and their joy and what I call embodied love. It's always there. The joy, the love, the empathy. It's always there. We just have to help people tap into it. So, yeah.
That's interesting. My granddaughter, when she was 3 years old, refused to eat meat. And as far as I know, she's never eaten it since then. She said it made her sick. And you know, in fact, she informed us when she was about 3 years old that she was going to be a vegetarian. And we said, "Oh, vegetarian, you're not going to eat meat." She says, "No, I'm going to take care of animals." And I said, "You mean a veterinarian?" She says, "Yes, but I'm also going to be a vegetarian."
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah. And she actually did have, I think, the words confused, but that was her principle. And she, you know, she's now 23 years old and has 2 children of her own. And for her, there was no separation of church and state there. You know, it was like, if you're taking care of animals, then you're also a vegetarian.
Yeah.
At that very, I mean, the logic in there was, to her, irrefutable.
Right.
So I can see where you would come from with that. And also, you know, it's interesting as we develop what the point where something becomes so important to us. Frequently, I've noticed in talking with the women that I've talked with, and I've talked with over 90 now, of
Wow.
priestesses across the world.
Yeah.
It's at a very early age, and I was 3, I was 5, I was 6,
Huh.
whenever this thing happened.
Mhm.
And from that, it informed my entire life.
Mhm.
So it's really interesting that you have chosen to be part of the organization here, which is not easy. I mean, as Julia will tell you, whenever she's told some things going on, I understand, I've organized, I know what you're going through. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. And
Yeah.
you will get to the other side.
Yes.
You'll eventually have the event and it'll be over and you go, wow, why was I worried about it? But yeah, so I really applaud you for that, and applaud you. Now, you also do healing, I presume, is basically your personal passion?
Yeah, and actually, before we move into that, I would love to share with you something that just sparked for me and what you said about people having this experience at a young age of awakening. And since you're all about priestessing, my kindness and awareness for animals really came from my relationships with individual animals. So the reason that I cared about the cows and the pigs was because I knew animals as my friends already. And I had a number of experiences growing up kind of out in the country in Illinois where I would come across animals in need. And I did just instinctively. I helped them, cared for them. Some of them made it, some of them didn't. But I wanted to tend to those making that transition. So I was doing that priestessing, and my parents, you know, they gave me, it was very sweet. They gave me space to do that. Like one day in science class, we learned about cryogenic freezing. And I saw that a mole had frozen in our pool, which of course is really sad because that can be prevented. And I'm affirming that moving forward, humanity does all we can to prevent that type of thing. But anyway, so I shoveled the mole out, and then I thought maybe I could hair dry her back to life. So I tried it. It didn't work, and then I buried her and did a blessing and all that. And I was, always finding birds and helping them. And so my point is that it's really comes from individually knowing them. I think that one of the reasons why humanity perpetuates the use and abuse of animals, because I say use abuse because I believe anytime we use a being, they're always going to be abused. I want total liberation for all animals. So the point is that it's like it comes from a heartfelt connection of knowing them, looking them eye to eye, and just feeling the love. Yeah, and so what I've experienced with my activism is that some people aren't open and ready for these ideas. So I'm really interested in helping people move into their love for themselves. We all have blocks. I had a lot of internalized negative messaging. I took in a lot of messaging from the culture about what it means to be a woman. And I suffered for many years with addiction and lots of things that I felt like I wasn't good enough. And so I've done a lot of inner work and meditation and yoga to really clear those things out. And so, yeah, I do. I use a number of modalities, lots and lots of different things. But really what I help people with is connecting with their inner wisdom and creating transformation, just kind of in a very unique way, a very feminist, holistic, and earth-based type of way.
Well, I'm sure you do a beautiful job of it because you just glow with life and radiance. And, it's interesting, if I may tell a small story. When I was a little girl, my grandfather owned a farm in Bentonville, Arkansas, and he had a few beef cattle on the farm.
Yeah.
And when I was about 5 years old, I went there, and they had just had a baby cow. Not cow, but would be a bull, born, but his mother was not willing to suckle him for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
5 years old, I'm not particularly, So they were hand feeding him.
Oh, yeah.
So it became one of my jobs because he had to be hand fed like
right. Yeah.
2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 times, I don't know, all day long, all night long.
Yeah.
And so it became one of my jobs that I would go out with Granddaddy, and I would help, and I would hold the big bottle. It was a big bottle,
Yeah.
and let the little bull suckle from it.
Yeah.
And I went home. I was there for 2 weeks, and the bull was fine. And
Yeah.
Went away and came back the next year, and I went out to see the bull,
Mhm.
you know, and bulls grow a lot in a year.
Mhm.
And my grandfather sees me going across the field towards the bull, and he's going, oh my God, she's going to get trampled, she's going to get stomped. And the bull does come running towards me.
Mhm.
And he comes right up to me and puts his head right here.
Mm.
And he was like, Mommy, you came back.
So much love there.
Yeah, and, you know, of course my grandfather and my grandmother are having a heart attack and the stroke in the background, but, you know, it was interesting because I had no thought that there was any idea that this, you know, to give you an idea how innocent it was, his name was Red. That was his name, you know, Red.
Yeah.
And that Red would in any way harm me.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I'm back. He'll welcome me.
Yeah.
And he did.
Hmm.
But it was, and you know, it was just interesting that the perceptions that my grandparents had,
Mhm.
and the reality that I
Mhm.
experienced.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I hear where you're coming from, and I hear that, you know, that was a very real animal to me. I mean,
Yes.
the idea that that animal would then be sent off to, in his case, they were milk cattle.
Mhm.
So the bull was very important,
Mhm.
and king of the heap and everything else.
But then they always slaughter them when they're not productive.
Yeah. Well, I don't know when that happened, but you
Yeah.
know, as far as I knew, the bull was going to be around for a long time. So
Yeah.
it was, but it was really interesting to experience that and to have that connection very early on.
Yeah.
And I have been to slaughterhouses, and frankly, if you ever go to a slaughterhouse, you will never eat meat again, ever. I don't care how much you like that porterhouse steak, you will never eat meat again if you've seen a slaughterhouse. So, you know, I applaud what you're doing and what work you're doing. And
Thank you so much.
you're you know, truly a being of light, and we need more of you on this planet. So thank you.
Thank
Keep
you,
teaching.
Gloria. And I so strongly feel that love between you and Red, and that is just the magic of the human-animal connection. And I just think that if more people could be aware of how much their lives matter to them and how much they feel, they're just like us. I mean, we have so many stories about how they're different and they're here for our use, but if you just see some animals like out in nature, they have their own families. They have, you know, it's like so sacred and beautiful, and it's sad to me that humans want to break that up and, you know, exploit and take advantage of them. But I think that we're moving. I think the more that we have those experiences and the more that we get people aware of our interconnection and start seeing animals as their own people, their own nations, really, who deserve to be free, wild and free. And so that's what I'm affirming for all of us, that we can let go of the chains, seen and unseen, that bind us and really step into our true power.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you, and you are definitely the change you want to see in the world. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you so much. Can I hug you?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, that was so charged. I love it.